Welcome back, everyone. My name's Alex. That's Eileen, and you guys are watching Straight to the Chicane. And let's get straight to the shit.
Straight to the shit.
This week was the British GP. Amazing race. I think it was the best race of the year. If you guys haven't seen it, stop what you're doing, and go and watch it right now, because I think it was the most action-packed, the closest the field's been to Max, and we didn't see Max lead the whole race. But I don't know. Enough about me. What are you doing? How'd you feel? What'd you think of the race?
I'm always looking forward to Silverstone. I feel like it's normally highly anticipated to be one of the best race weekends. We voted last year to be Silverstone was the best. So I
did not disappoint.
Yeah, it definitely didn't disappoint. We didn't have any like crazy accidents, thank God, because last year obviously we had that, lap one incident. But there was a lot, and I feel like I was telling you, the Grand Prix, it always has the most, like, I guess, fan to driver interactions. Like, there's always, like, extra interviews, extra, like, they do the fun stuff. Last year they did the little bouncy ball things where they raced each other. This year they did the tire, like, curling is what they called it, who could get it closest. I think George won. But there's always a lot of, like, hype and interaction around this weekend, so.
It seems like they got more, press to do for this weekend.
And the drivers love the track. I feel like genuinely, it's not even just the home heroes. They all love the track.
You hear them countlessly say it's the best track. Other tracks they take aspects of Silverstone to create the other tracks around the world, because Silverstone is so sought after and it's very fun. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine how fun it would be to drive on the back where the S's are. The Maggots and Beckett's coming in there, would be great.
Pretty cool. Yeah, so I'm very highly anticipated weekend. Didn't disappoint. A lot to unpack.
So I think we kind of need to get into it. I know we got into it right away, but yet, if you guys haven't yet, please subscribe. We do have a lot to say to this weekend. I think this weekend was fun. We saw weather as well. We had a little bit of rain. We had some surprises. I think for me, the biggest surprise, you tell me what was different, but the surprise for me was how well Williams was doing for practices.
Here's the thing, and I've been thinking about what I wanted to say the whole day. I feel like genuinely there really wasn't a team that performed super bad across the whole weekend. Everybody did pretty well.
Alpine.
Well, but they didn't do terrible, when you think about practice. If you're weighing the whole weekend now, yes, the race, Alpine,
which matters the most.
Yes. So, but Williams definitely, that was the shocker. People had them predicted to be in the top 3 for qualifying. So,
I believe Laura Winters on Formula One said Albon third for qualifying.
Albon was P3, P2, P3 in all 3 practice sessions. So, I think people would have bet on him.
I think that was probably a fairly easy bet. And if you would have saw what Friday's practices were doing, Mercedes, I don't know, were they sandbagging? Because on Friday, they didn't look great. They looked slow. I think they were 14th and 15th, somewhere near the back.
In the bottom 5.
So, I think in hindsight, we also know that their reserve driver, which is Michael Schumacher's son, mm-hmm. Right? Mick. He's their reserve driver now, and he spent till 2:00 in the morning. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, a good 8 hours or whatever it is, just putting in lap after lap in the simulator there. Well, they figured it out apparently, because come Saturday in qualifying, they brought a better package. I think they figured out the tire cinch.
They definitely did. So. I think they brought this new front wing, and everyone was like, oh, Mercedes is bringing a couple more big upgrades. And Toto had said the upgrade in Silverstone could potentially be bigger than the one in Monaco. So, that was obviously the side pods. And it's we didn't really see a whole lot change. They're still just really struggling. So, they had a tough weekend just in general.
I think they did. They had to be. It's kind of what they do now is, for the last 2 years, right? You tell me if I'm wrong. they get to the weekend, they start the weekend.
They do not.
It's kind of what, I mean, they're not the top team anymore. So they get there, they figure out where they're struggling, and then throughout the whole Friday, and if it's not like a sprint weekend, you know, going into the Saturday and then in the qualifying, they send somebody in the simulator and they kind of figure out how to better suit the car, and they always come back at least a little bit better. They surprise us, you know. But I think another big surprise, you tell me, is how well McLaren's doing, and I think it's just the paint. I think it's just the chrome. You tell me. I think it's slicker, and I think it gives them more airstream. You tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. So it's Senna and Prost showed up this weekend for McLaren. So I'm like, I don't know. Apparently, it's the chrome livery. I don't know. I mean, it was a shock. It was the shock of the weekend for me. Now, Williams, I feel like we've known that they've had really good straight line speed, so not unusual to see them perform well in practice, because they kind of fell in line. Albon's been in the top 10. He's been in Q3 in qualifying, so not unusual.
That car's got some potential when it's, you know, the conditions are right with the Williams.
Yeah. McLaren, I've been knocking all season.
Yeah, but their last race, they brought an upgrade just to Lando's car, and he finished, in the top 5, which was his best finish of the season.
He finished P4 because of the penalties.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but I mean, he was P5 before, so he had a good weekend. I mean, obviously.
So I would say, you know, over in Austria, their car showed potential because Oscar was on the old setup, and he was still kind of far back. This weekend, however, McLaren brought it.
Yeah, but Lando always performs well in Austria too. So I'm like, we didn't know if it was just track specific or.
But now we know. You know, they put the upgrade on Oscar's car.
I thought you said it was just the livery.
It is.
Sure.
Now, let me ask you: do you like the livery?
I don't. I haven't liked the McLaren though, and maybe I would like it if there just wasn't. It just feels like it's so over-sponsored that it's like crazy to look at.
I would agree. It's got a lot of sponsors, and maybe it is over-sponsored.
I mean, which is great for them because they have all these sponsorships.
Well, I mean, they have the funding that they need, but there's probably a lot of they need. You know, these sponsors are expecting a whole lot.
I just think we got hyped up that it was going to be in comparison to the old McLaren livery.
Sure.
And it's a totally different orange.
It is.
So
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
I'm like, it's like similar to this.
What are people saying online? I haven't seen.
It's a mixed bag. People love it, and some people don't like it. I think a lot of people actually really like it.
Huh.
And a lot of people are saying the same to you, is that the livery is what got them a 2-3 in qualifying.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm curious on what you guys think too. Let us know in the comments below for sure.
I mean, Lando was on pole for a second.
So let's break that down for a second, because people in the UK at the race, because the race had record number of people and the place was packed for qualifying. They were so hyped when Lando came.
Well, so were we. I feel like
we were jumping up and down.
I was like, oh my God.
But there was a brief, weird, eerie feeling because I knew we all knew that Max still was doing another hot lap.
But it was like Norris got on pole and Max was on his lap, and he had a yellow middle sector. So it was like,
it's going to be close.
Hold on here.
It was a nail biter.
And then he was like, just kidding. Sector 3, done and dusted.
Yeah, then, so Max Verstappen, again, just destroys it just like usual.
5 pole positions in a row.
5.
He took his 28th of his career.
I mean, just really performing well with that car.
Now, we did see a mistake from Max this weekend, an incident.
Yeah.
In the pit lane. I don't even think we even knew what was going on. We're like, wait, I was like, it cut to him and I'm like, is this wing broken? Like, what's going on?
And for a second, I thought more than his wing was broken, but after watching the replay, it was just, he pulled out of his garage and understeered.
Yeah.
Right into the wall, which can happen. It's not that,
Pretty much what he said was that a lot of teams brought new wings and he felt left out, so he wanted to get a new wing too.
There you go. So he got a new wing. I think whatever that they're doing, because I think at the later press conference, at the post-press conference of this race, he's talking about they're bringing upgrades to Hungary. which is in 2 weeks time.
Hopefully the upgrades don't work.
Yeah, I hope it makes them worse.
just to close the gap, just to make it exciting.
You were telling me there's people that are putting tape over the first place spot. And
I said today, I was like, Lando Norris won the British Grand Prix, Lewis P2, Oscar P3. Max is just a given to win at this point, so it's a competition for who's going to be 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
We should give out honorary trophies to 4th position, I think, at this point.
You're not wrong. Yeah, so let's get back to qualifying, because what was really impressive is that, the McLaren cars were working and a rookie, Oscar Piastri, was right there.
Yeah.
That was not a surprise, more of a surprise that, again, a Red Bull car is out early.
Oh, no.
What's going on with Sergio Perez? Do you know? I don't know. I don't know what it is. Now, what is it? I heard 5 times in a row now?
I mean, he got caught out he got screwed over because of, it's always a little bit of luck. 2, bad luck. Obviously track limits last weekend, but this weekend he got caught out. There was the weather in Q1. Then there was the red flag from the Haas.
Well, he also had a time get deleted because he went over track limits. We still had some issues with track limits again this weekend.
We did. I thought Lando was going to get a penalty in the race.
And even during the race, there was some issues with track limits. So track limits are still a thing. Even though a lot of people are like, oh, we don't need to worry. Almost a penalty for Lando. Mm-hmm. And if he would have got a 5-second penalty, he would have not been on the podium.
I know. Well, he would have fallen back 2 places.
Easily.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on with Sergio. I mean, Helmut Marko, what did he say? He was like, well, he still performs in the races unlike Nick DeVries.
Yeah, that's a pretty low blow. So, do you think Sergio's safe in his spot currently?
I mean, I don't know who they're going to bring up. Well, Danny Ricciardo. I'm not sure. I mean, we'll see. There's still 13 races or 12 races left of the season. We're not even halfway through. Can he come back from this? He most certainly is almost 100 points behind Max at this point. I don't think he's a championship contender. Now, who knows?
I don't think anyone's a championship contender anymore. I think we've kept hearing it all weekend. Max, it was of his own team. He'd be beating... Well, he'd be leading the Constructors' Cup.
Yes, he would be, and he still would be after today.
So, yeah, who's to stop him? I mean, look, I don't know what's stopping him. I don't know what's wrong with Sergio. I think it's in his head at this point because, for all intents and purposes, he has the same car, right? For all we know, he has the same car.
I think it's suited to Max. I definitely think
always,
so.
Yes,
and all the past drivers will tell you the same thing. It's definitely suited to Max. He likes a stiff rear end or whatever. But I think that, Checo, after Monaco, his confidence, and then it's been 5 races that he hasn't been in Q3.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's driven through the pack.
He has. He was on the podium in Austria, and he had a better race than he did, of course, qualifying. And granted, if there wasn't a safety car, would he have made it into the top 5, top 3? Who knows?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah,
but he's making it very difficult.
Where did he finish today? I forget. I already forgot.
6th.
So, do you think he could have finished better than 6th today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without that red flag or without the safety car?
I don't know. Here's the thing: Alonso was holding up the pack for a while, but he easily cleared Alonso.
He did. And
I mean, yeah, I think honestly he may have challenged for the podium. I mean, he's in a rocket ship.
He is.
As he should. Okay?
Yeah.
As he should.
Yeah, as he should. Yeah, so I don't want to go into the race quite yet because I think there's still some more stuff to talk about because, look, we haven't even broken into the fact that there is another team there. However, they're filming a movie with this team.
Ooh.
What's the team called? I think Apex. That's the name. Tentative name is Apex.
I don't know. It's like
Apex GP.
Sure. Yeah.
Something like that. And they've been having full access to just about everywhere other than...
They had their own pit wall in their own garage.
Uh-huh.
So they had access to everything.
Everything.
They were on the starting grid.
For the
They
anthems?
went on the formation lap.
Did they?
Yes, they were the last 2 cars on the grid.
And then they pulled off into the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like during the whole like pre-race stuff, they were out there.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Are you going to see that movie when it comes out?
Of course.
It's going to be on Apple. I think I heard Apple.
It's going to be on Apple. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Lewis is a producer.
Brad Pitt is the star.
Yep. And there's
Javier Bardem is the team principal, it sounds like.
Sounds like.
And Brad Pitt is Sonny Hayes, shall we say, is a driver from the 90s who is getting hired back after he did like some different,
He did like
leagues.
Daytona and he did Le Mans.
Yeah, so he's coming back with a young Brit. I'm like, is this about Lewis? I feel like it's like a story about Lewis, but I mean, a little, not so much. I mean, obviously they're coming back and they're the worst team on the grid.
It's the Lewis Hamilton 8 Mile.
It's the Lewis, yeah, sure. It's the Lewis Hamilton versus Fernando Alonso inspo is what I think it is. But
Yeah.
no, it was kind of cool to see, but we didn't really get to see a whole lot because the cameras, TV coverage wasn't really allowed to see it. So just behind the scenes photos of things. But it's an F2 car reconfigured.
So they took an F2 car, which is like a stock open wheel car, and then they modified it, to look more like a F1 car. Yeah. And I think it looks pretty good. I think everyone was happy. It's got good sponsors on it. It's got Tommy Hilfiger, Mercedes.
I feel like Mercedes is like their big sponsor. I don't like the livery. It looks like a Haas.
Well, it doesn't look like a Haas. It looks like a Rich Energy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it'll probably play really well on camera.
I'm sure.
And that's probably why they went with that color.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree. It wasn't, to me, it's a little...
I'm like, are all the drivers going to make cameos? Like, are all their names going to be in the credits?
I think
Max
so.
Verstappen plays himself. Max Verstappen.
Probably. It could, I
mean, there's got to be... Okay, so if this is... They said, obviously, this circuit could suit them. Because that was the big thing. It's like, everyone's saying, or is there going to be another team added into Formula One? Like Cadillac, is waiting to hear back from their bid or whatever.
Well, Cadillac and Andretti are trying to get in.
Right.
Yes.
And so a lot of the team principals have said, like, no, we can't accommodate it. And Toto this weekend was like, well, we can accommodate it here, but we can't accommodate it at most circuits. So
you might not be wrong. I mean, because they're, depending on how big the garage is for the pit area, they're not all the same. Mm-hmm. They have a minimum requirement that they have to meet in order to be an F1 race, because the track or whatever has to be like a Class A track, right?
Yeah.
So there's a minimum requirement to become a Class A track. Mm-hmm. And whatever those minimum requirements are, you're right. Maybe the minimum requirements of a Class A track don't necessarily allow for 11 teams. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Well, I don't even know. Where I was going with it was, and then it sparked my memory. But where I was going is like, obviously this movie isn't just going to be based around the content that they got from Silverstone. So like, where else are they going to be filming? Because I'm curious to see how they incorporate them into like the race. Like, are they going to win the race?
No.
And Max didn't win the race? Like, who are they racing? Are they racing the real F1 drivers, or are they racing made up fictional people that they're going to AI over the real drivers? I don't know.
Well, do they need AI when they're all wearing helmets? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I don't know
either.
I need more details.
I guess we have to wait and see.
I need more details.
Yeah, so moving on from the movie, there was other things that were kind of happening. You have to remind me. I forget, because there was a couple of things, right? You don't know.
I mean, I don't know. Let's see. Let's go down the list. We already talked about McLaren. We already talked about Williams. Mm-hmm. Ferrari had a pretty decent weekend up until Sunday.
Yeah,
they looked okay. Now, we are seeing a little bit of drama between the two drivers.
And that's really what happened during qualifying, right?
Yeah. But I think it's coming hot off of Austria, where they definitely prioritized Leclerc over Carlos, and Carlos had the pace. I said it last episode.
You've been saying it a bunch.
I've been saying it a lot. I feel like Carlos this season has been feeling really comfortable with the car, whereas Leclerc definitely has not.
And they haven't been favoring Carlos.
And anytime I feel like Carlos is having a good race, and they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, because it's like, today they finished 9th and 10th. So what, they got 3 points. And so it's like, why aren't you prioritizing your driver that's performing better and is, I guess, further ahead in the Drivers' Championship. But qualifying, I mean, obviously with the trickier conditions, they were P3 and P4, and then they told Carlos to swap positions with Leclerc, and he's like, well, why? Yeah. Why would you prioritize my tire temperature for him to go in front of me when I'm more at risk, which clearly they're like the same position, so obviously they're both kind of in the same boat.
Both in the same boat.
But what message does that send to Carlos, And for me, it sends like, okay, well, Charles is the priority. So then, during their laps, going into like the last corner where I think, they're both setting up to go on their flying lap, Carlos overtakes Charles in the last corner.
Yeah.
And then Charles comes on the radio and he's like, nice move, which at the time, I think everyone was like, oh, wow, look at him complimenting him on an overtake that he did.
But it was a snark comment.
When in reality, he was being sarcastic. So I think a little bit of tension there.
I think there is a little tension there, you know. I think the tension from the Red Bull has kind of gone away a little bit because
Checo knows he's just out of the race.
Checo is out of the race now. They're not like they were. What was the closest? They got within 6 points?
I mean, here's the thing. I think there would be more tension with Red Bull if they were qualifying and next to each other.
Yeah, but
there is never a competition. So we saw it still, even though there was a large variance in the points, we saw it at the sprint race.
Yeah.
Last weekend. And that's because they were close to each other. So I think if they were qualifying P1, P2, we would see more of a battle. And we might still get some of that. So let's see what happens. But there's definitely a riff going on at Ferrari.
Yeah. And then we were talking earlier before we got on camera about you needed to do a little bit more research about contracts. And I'm sure you don't even know all the things. But there are quite a few contracts that are kind of coming up this year.
There is, yeah. And Carlos being one of them. And I think Carlos is I think he's just frustrated with Ferrari in general. It's like the team is really inconsistent.
Yeah.
And then the weekends where he's feeling strong and really good with the car, it's like, I feel like they have a bad strategy call or they don't prioritize him or he has to take a back seat or whatever the case is. And it's like, they just keep doing it. So I don't know what he's going to do at the end of the season, but then I'm like, where is he going to go?
I think a lot of teams would like to have him. However, you're right. What would be available for him?
And like, what's a better team?
No, there's no better team.
I'm like, he's already been at Red Bull. He's already been at McLaren. He's not going to go to Mercedes. And so it's like, does he go to Aston? But like, Fernando, I think, is signed on for 2 years.
And
we're not going to get rid of Stroll.
Stroll's not going anywhere anytime soon.
And the rest of the teams are like, probably not the best choice for him. So I don't know. I also heard that Ferrari's looking at Albon if Carlos decides not to sign with them.
I mean, Albon's a good driver. I mean, he's definitely putting that Williams. We heard a lot more Williams being talked about this weekend and last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, than we have heard in, I don't know, since Valtteri, I guess. Since Valtteri was there when Valtteri won, because he was the last one to win with the Williams. Mm-hmm. So it's been not 10 years, but... Well,
they're doing better. I mean, they brought their upgrades. I think even Logan Sargent had his best performance this weekend. Now, don't knock him until he's very close to getting points. He's P11, so last week he finished P13. So impressive to see that. So clearly the package is working.
The package is working, which is what, they're a Mercedes engine, and they look like a Red Bull?
No, they don't. McLaren looks like a Red Bull.
But they have a Mercedes engine.
They do.
Yeah.
And Aston. But Aston obviously signed with Honda for 2026.
Yeah, that's because Ford and Red Bull.
Yeah, so, I mean, the Mercedes engine's working. The aerodynamic package is not working for Mercedes.
Yeah. It's getting better. You keep hearing Lewis talk about the rear end, and they're bringing another package.
They're bringing a rear wing, and I want to say it's not coming to Hungary. It's coming to Spa, but...
I bet they bring it early for Hungary.
Well, I mean, we've got a week off, and Lewis did say in his Sky Sports post-race interview, he was like, I know what it is that we need to do, so I'm going to be talking to the engineers. Now, we did see Lewis all weekend qualifying, practice, the race. He's down. He's taking mental notes. He's looking. He's comparing cars.
Yeah.
He's the new Seb. So
I think he is the new Seb, and he's acting like the new Seb.
He is. And he said it multiple times this weekend. Even in the Max Verstappen podcast room, he said, dang, the McLaren, you look just like a Red Bull. And he's like, Lando goes, no, we don't. We look like just like an Aston, which Aston looks just like a Red Bull too. So we've got a lot of Red Bull. Adrian knew he should be proud.
He should be proud. And I think that's probably the trend right now. I think this is the era of this type of car, and I think Adrian Newey nailed it on the head, got it right, and I think all the cars are going to start looking that way because there probably isn't really a better way to go.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. You know, until they still start changing up other things, you know, things are going to start happening. You know, we got things that are happening way down the future. Not almost seasons. There's not going to be tire blankets here soon.
Right.
They're going to be on fully synthetic gasoline here shortly. You know what I mean? More electric energy is being produced and less motor, you know, so things are changing in the future for sure. And I think the trend is going to be looking like a Red Bull, you know? So I think qualifying, we're good on talking about that. I think with that, the biggest surprise was McLaren 2 and 3, finally getting a rookie.
I mean, that was the moment. I mean, if you were Zach Brown this weekend,
you had a really good
you
weekend.
were on cloud 9.
So their upgrades, they're flying high. They're, you know, essentially a home race for them as well. It was a home race for almost all the teams.
Yeah, it was.
You know?
I'm still trying to understand it, but I'm like, it does, I feel like just it brings the energy because it is so many home races. Now it's the true home race for, of course, Lando, Russell, Hamilton, and Albon as well.
So,
but Albon is only liked, and he's gone on record, he's only a true Brit when he's doing well. If he's not, then, you know.
If he's doing well, if he qualifies well and does well, he's a true born, London born. And
if he doesn't do well, then he's a transplant.
And he's a transplant, and he just has to go off of his Thai license that he uses.
He did. I mean, it's so funny. I feel like, you know, he's kind of the underrated, you know, person. Even Helmut Marko made a comment about him, like, oh, we were looking at Alex, you know, and they dropped him a few years ago. And
well, I don't think they dropped him. I think he still has the Red Bull sponsorship.
I don't think so. Not this year.
Oh man, I know. Last year
he was still tied with it.
Yeah.
But he signed through 25 with Williams, and so Helmut was like, "Yeah, we'd love to, you know, look at him or whatever. He's performing really well."
They got a good relationship still. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
I wouldn't go back to them. He seems so much happier.
You're not wrong. The stress level at Red Bull has to suck. You know,
well, when you're performing that, you're like, okay, that's why you crack under pressure or you perform well, you know, and it's like, we haven't seen a teammate perform like at top tier that's performed with Max.
The only other person that's performed with Max was Daniel Ricciardo. You know, and that was before Max came to true form. He was still a 17, 18-year-old kid, and Daniel was doing well, winning races. So I would still like to see how those two come together now that kind of the roles have changed a little bit, you know, because, you know, Max is now a multi-year world champion, about to be a 3-year world champion.
Right.
You know,
3 consecutive world champions.
Soon, you know, you're not wrong.
I know.
And
I don't know what will stop him other than a global pandemic.
Not even
but
that.
then,
honestly, at this point, it's just people are counting down the days. They're saying it could be as soon as Singapore.
Oh, I don't know. I was gonna research that. Like, what's the soonest that Max could win?
I heard someone say they think it's as soon as Singapore. Now, if you guys are watching still, thank you. Tell me if you guys know when you think the soonest that Max could truly win the title.
Yeah, I mean, we're 10 races in, and Red Bull has won the last 11 races because they won in Abu Dhabi. They tied the record with McLaren. Like, it's looking like, I mean, we're almost halfway through this season, and Red Bull has won every single race.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
I mean, look, the start of this race was great. Max did not get off to a good start, and McLaren with Lando got right in front and led the race for, I think, 5 laps?
5 laps, yeah.
During the first lap, Oscar Piastri gave Max a fight.
Max had a bad start, though.
Not a great start. You're right about that.
Yeah.
He kept saying he had a lot of wheel spin in the after interviews.
Yeah, I mean, even Piastri had to go like super wide.
But I think because that's because
Max was slow on
Max
the start.
was slow. He was getting the slipstream off of Lando, and both McLarens had a really good start. So I think, I don't know, man. I think Oscar looked really good. I think we heard Martin Brundle say it. I think somebody else said it. He was very mature drive. It was a good drive from him, and I think his biggest mistake was he let off the gas at that first lap somewhere, right in the front before the first turn. I think if he would have kept his boot in it, maybe a little bit longer, there could have been something.
I mean,
but I don't know. Max's car, once the tires got off the top, and that's the thing they also talk about. Sorry to keep going, but the McLaren's cars have been getting their tires up to temp really, really well, and that's why later on in the race when they had the hards, it wasn't too bad for them. They were able to keep up with the people that were on the softs and stay ahead of people that were on softs. Right. So
they were good this weekend.
Yeah.
They were like I think they were the stars of the weekend. I mean, for sure, hands down. I think they were the team to beat this weekend.
Lando again was driver of the day.
2 weekends in a row.
Yeah, and was he your driver of the day?
He was well-deserved driver of the day.
A well-deserved driver of the day. I would like to see. My only other one would be maybe Oscar, because I think he had a really good weekend overall, and the fact that he was able to stay where I mean, look, he didn't get the podium, but that's because Lewis Hamilton is a multi-world champion.
Well, there was a little bit of luck.
A lot of luck.
A little bit of luck with the safety car.
And you kept hearing Lando say this too in the post-race, that if there wasn't a safety car, he thinks that Oscar would have got on the podium. And that could be true.
Like, that's honestly, with the way the strategy went, Norris was unsafe to Piastri.
For a moment, yeah.
For a moment.
Yeah.
Oscar would have probably finished higher than Lando.
It's possible.
If the cookie would have crumbled a little different.
Well, early on, so once the first few laps got settled and Max was able to get past Lando, it seemed like Oscar was faster than Lando.
Well, I mean, they stayed together pretty
close. They did, but
the whole
I mean,
race.
there was moments where like, Oscar could pass, but the team called for orders. They did team orders, kept them in line, and that kind of, I don't know if it made a mistake, because I think the mistake was then they pitted Oscar first for a different set of tires, and then immediately when that happened, it was the car catching fire from Magnussen's car. Yeah.
2 days in a row, his engine blew up. So Haas,
so what's up with it's a Ferrari, right?
Donkey of the weekend.
Ferrari engine.
Yes.
So there was a lot of things that were issues with Ferrari. I mean, speaking over the whole weekend, Leclerc didn't come out for a whole practice because of electrical issue, right? Unless you know more than me now. Haas now had 2 days of engine issues.
Yeah, with the same car.
Yeah.
And I think before we went into the race today, I want to say Crofty said that they had switched out one of the engines in the Haas within their pool, but they had switched it out.
It was legal, but they switched out.
Yeah. So
I probably,
So they're going to definitely be up for some penalties here, maybe even before summer break.
I think we'll see a few teams with penalties because it's a long season for sure. I think next season they're adding another motor.
Are they?
If I remember correctly, they're adding another motor. I know they did it this year too.
Oh, the pool is 4 now?
I believe it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I
didn't know
I could be.
I didn't know that they did that. But a lot of issues this weekend. Leclerc, his practice 3, and so that was like, I guess the announcer's thing is, if he has a bad Sunday or a bad Saturday, he can blame it on the fact that he didn't get any running. But not really sure.
I think Ferrari had a bad Sunday all around. I mean, the fact that they just got into points is
barely. Albon was cruising by him at the end there.
Yeah. I think the other notable thing is that we should talk about is that George, he wasn't the only one, but he was the main one in the top 10 starting on softs.
Yeah, he was. There's only 2 drivers that started on softs.
So he was the main one starting the race on softs on Sunday, and I think it showed because everyone's like, he's gonna have to pit by by lap 10, lap 9.
They were like calling for when is he going to come into the pits, and it was like lap 9, lap 12.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm like,
it showed that the tires were able to hold up because he was out there till 20 something.
He went in right before the safety car, and the safety car was like lap 33, 32.
So right in that area, I mean, so the tires held out really well. It showed all the other teams because when we had the virtual safety car, we saw some teams started making the moves. And then we saw the real safety car, and that was when all the top players came in. And I kept saying, oh, they probably will go to softs.
Well, the only reason that they missed the pit window, because they just passed when the virtual safety car came out for the top 3.
Yeah.
And so, we saw, of course, Lewis, Norris, and Max come in during the safety car. So.
But so we saw Max go on a set of softs from his mediums. We saw Lewis go on a set of softs. A used set of softs.
Both of them.
They were both on a used set of tires.
Only 2 laps. It was like 3 laps. 3 laps. I checked.
Okay.
Because you were freaking out. You're
I
wonder how many laps they've had on these tires.
Because it was crazy. Because
hold on, let's get the data.
Because it was perfect timing. Because everyone, you're right. Because there was a few people that started pitting just before the safety flag, and the safety car, or the virtual safety car, and it kind of caused Lewis to get up into like P3. Mm-hmm. He was in a really good position. And, I think the safety car timing worked out really, really well. It could have worked out maybe a little bit better for the top 3, but worked out pretty damn good. I think the better tire was going, for most of the teams, was going to that soft for the second set. But then we saw McLaren go to the hards. Mm-hmm. And they were able to hold off Lewis. Lando was able to hold off Lewis the whole entire time.
And Oscar was able to hold off George.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty good to show that they were able to get those hards turned on pretty quickly, to the guys that were around them on softs. Now, George had a new set of softs because his strategy was pretty good.
No, he was on mediums.
Oh, yeah, you're right. He was on a new set of mediums. He had a good strategy, and I think if it wasn't
He did. He just pit before the safety car.
He did. If he would have waited another, lap or 2, whatever it was, he could have probably really had a good payoff. Mm-hmm. He showed the whole field that those softs were going to go to the end of the race because we got to the point. I'm like, oh well, now we're over halfway. Yeah,
there's only 20 laps left, so it's like, okay. And then the safety car felt like it was like out forever.
I think where the car caught fire was on a tough spot. It wasn't able to. They weren't able to pull it off and behind like the wall at all. They had to get a truck out there because you did see them come around and there was a flatbed. They had the flatbed out there. And they got it up and they had to move it that way. So I think that was the big reason.
Yeah. I don't know. A little bit of luck goes a long way. So we saw some luck go Lewis's way this weekend.
It did, and I think that's a lot. They banked on there being a possible late safety car.
There always is a safety car in Silverstone.
There is.
So I'm like,
I enjoy watching Silverstone. I think it's one of my most enjoyable races to watch.
Because it's fast.
It's fast. The drivers like it. There's always something like, I mean, look, what was it? 2019 or 20 that Lewis did it on 3 wheels. 20? Mm-hmm.
2020.
Yeah, I mean, so there's always something going on. It's a really good race. That's why I think they set the record for most attended over Formula One weekend at any event ever. Over 480,000 people for the whole weekend. Pretty impressive. I'm hoping maybe this year COTA gets to do that. I think it's close.
I'm sure it will. Sprint weekend.
Yeah, it's gonna be close. I think a sort of us being there out at the Silverstone track, I think it's a really good one to watch. All the celebrities that always go there, really star-studded, well covered. Drivers like it.
Yeah, fun weekend.
It's a fun weekend. I enjoyed it. I think they need to do a sprint weekend there. They did it last year?
I think they got rid of it because
it was just too much.
It was 2021. And it felt like every time in 2021
there was a lot of PTSD from 2021.
Yeah, there is. That was the weekend, of the infamous accident.
Yeah.
And it was every time there was a sprint weekend, there was a crash.
Yeah.
Because Monza, same thing.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
So it was like PTSD. It was too much.
I'd like, look, I mean, get off topic a little bit. Sorry. I think it's nice that every year it's different sprint places,
Yeah, but the same. I think Austria, Monza, this year I think we've got Qatar has one,
Yeah.
Coda.
I mean, this year we have
five.
six. We have 5, right?
5 or 6.
6, I think. So this year we have
Baku, I think we could do without a sprint, but
Yeah. I mean, look, that's the only other thing that they would add, but they have already done it at Silverstone, so there's no, they're giving other places a chance, which I think they like, But I think, this place was great. This was my favorite weekend of the year so far. Was it? What about you?
yeah, I think so. Overall,
Yeah.
I had the most excitement. I had the most we're really seeing teams get closer to Red Bull, which is good from a pure pace, one lap, and even just race pace. So I think, we're definitely going to see some more competitive edge.
Yeah, it sucks that it's taking all the way to the end of the season. Oh, I mean, we're not even halfway. We're halfway?
Not even halfway.
Just almost halfway.
I mean, depending on what they bring from an upgrade perspective.
Yeah, it's tough because, in a couple more races, Red Bull's going to have an upgrade. And then how far are they going to jump forward? You know what I mean? It's just tough. The season's been a little tough. Red Bull's been so dominant. It's really been a battle for second. It
has, but it's been different every weekend. So
and that's what's been good. So I think that's kind of what we've been liking most is like where the midfield, which is everybody from P2 down, really.
Right. McLaren scored more points today than they have the entire season so far.
Yes,
which
that's correct.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
I think
Williams jumped to 2 places in the constructors.
Yeah.
Which, so we still have a lot to shake out for the season.
And before we get too far, Alfa Romeo, just not even talked about. Bottas had some issues. He got disqualified, you told me, or something? Tell me. I was like, what?
He got disqualified from qualifying.
Okay, so that put him in what, P20?
Remember, he finished, he got out of Q1 and got into Q2.
In 15th.
But his car broke and caused the red flag, so that's what screwed Perez, remember?
Yeah.
And so he didn't have enough fuel for a fuel sample at the end of qualifying.
So he got the penalty for the fuel sample. That's right.
So Sergio got promoted from P16 to P15 today.
And then, and he went from P15 to P20.
Yeah.
Man, Valtteri's had a tough
one.
Yeah.
Alfa Romeo, the Alfa Romeo and Tari, not good.
Yeah. They're having
This is rough for them. Hopefully they're working on 2024.
I think that's all you can do at this point.
Yeah.
Because they both have, look, Guan Yu Zhou and Valtteri are very good drivers.
Valtteri was
he was in second and a competitor for
the championship.
And has won multiple races before.
Right.
Has been on pole before. So I think they need to give him a better car.
In the words of Sergio Perez, you don't just go from winning races to being terrible overnight.
You don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot more we could talk about that could be completely on topic or off topic of Silverstone. I think we're kind of running long on time.
We are. The only other thing that we didn't talk about news-wise is the 2024 calendar.
They dropped that.
So we've got 24 races.
Yeah.
We're going to get to 2030, and there's going to have to be 30 races because we need to add a new one every year. To this year, 2023, we've got
I think they
23.
just need to stop going to certain, give people a break.
Well, we're not going to France next year, guys. So no more squiggly lines.
So how do you feel about that? No, not going to France.
I'm fine with it. It was between France, Monaco, or Spa. And we're not going to get rid of Monaco, and we weren't going to get rid of Spa.
I agree with that.
So
those two are not getting rid of. I would rather get rid of.
It's a bummer for the French drivers and the French team. So Alpine, but it's okay.
There's a lot of races in that general area. You know what I mean? That are all in the European area that are a drive that we just did when we went to Canada within an 8-hour drive.
They can go to Monaco. So
exactly. There's definitely plenty. So that one kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Let that one go.
China's back.
Which is great because it's a really fun course. Hopefully they can make it there.
It's been on the calendar. It gets canceled every year, so it was canceled this year. But so really, there's the one big thing and the one big comment that F1 is making is how they've regionalized the calendar better.
The try.
I don't think they really did that much. So they swapped Baku and Suzuka. So we go to China and Japan and Australia in the same kind of area. So
which is fine.
So a lot of late weekends for us. But
I mean, that's kind of the name of the game.
But no, I mean, it's better. It's better there. But we still have Canada in between Monaco and Spain.
But to be honest, like though that flight from the UK to Canada is not that far out of the picture because, they have two sets of things, and some stuff just stays in the European area and stuff flies around, right? Mm-hmm. So it makes sense while they're setting up the local stuff at the next one, they fly away to the one that's already been set up maybe for like 2 weeks over in Canada. So then they come back to the UK for the next few races.
That makes sense.
I think that one, I'm not too bad about that one because of how close Canada is technically to the UK. You got to go over the Atlantic, but it's not how they fly over from Canada. It's not as far as...
Okay, so it's not like Qatar this year to Vegas and then to Abu Dhabi.
Exactly.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
We do have a triple header to end the season, which is cool for next year. And they did do a better job regionalizing it. The one thing I will say is we're always going to give F1 shit, I feel like, because it is a worldwide calendar. And we have to remember that is we're going worldwide. It's not like, oh, you're just going from, the UAE to Miami every week. They do, it does look better, but when you look at it on a map and you have the plane flying and you're seeing, it looks pretty crazy.
I think you got to look at it a couple different ways too. One, weather. You can't go, you're not going to go race in Canada in March.
Well, that's what a lot of people said is like switching Baku and Japan. It's like, oh wow, this actually makes more sense.
Because Japan, when they normally would race, it'd be shitty weather, and they should be doing it in a time when typically they have better weather. Mm-hmm. You're right about that. And then there's certain places that they go to that it doesn't matter with the weather. You know what I mean? So they can do that almost whenever. So you got Monaco that has to be on a certain weekend. You have certain places that have weather, and then you have some places that are just so far away.
And we have to end in Abu Dhabi.
Well, I think that's part of the deal, the contract, is Abu Dhabi. And honestly, I've heard a lot of people on YouTube say Abu Dhabi is not the best track to end at. They would rather see it end at like Brazil.
Yeah, here's what I'm going to say.
Or you end it at Vegas. We'll see how this Vegas track is going to go. Because right now the pig looking track.
The pig.
I don't know. I haven't even gotten to race it yet.
All I know is that Williams is going to be good there because they're good on the straights.
Yeah. But it's a street track, so it's going to be rough. I think it's going to be rough. It's going to be patchy.
Oh, my God. It's going to be insane. The whole weekend is going to be like a circus. It's going to be a circus. There's going to be so many celebrities. They're going to have to limit the celebrities that are on the track walk because it is going to be insane. And, I mean, I hope they make the packages more realistic. I get it. It's the first year. But in order to have people that are actually true F1 fans, you cannot have a GA weekend pass for $2,000.
Yeah.
This is insane to me. So
it's the most expensive F1 ticket.
Probably of all time.
Of all time.
Yeah. So, but.
So I would gladly watch that from home on a Saturday night.
Yeah. No, me too.
It'll be a little late here, but it's fine.
Yeah. What sucks is that they've got to go from there to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
And I think they might have a little bit of time off, but I actually don't think they do. I think it's week to week.
Yeah.
So imagine you're in Vegas, which it's a Saturday night race. So I guess they can party Saturday night after the race and then fly out hungover on Sunday.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. But yeah, so that's the F1 calendar for 2024. So
yeah, it's gonna be crazy. I think that they did a better job localizing and trying to make regionalizing it better. I think they did about as good as you're gonna get, barring the weather. Excuse me, and the mandatory certain races that are mandatory. Mm-hmm.
I do too.
So I don't know. Look, I
need to improve all the time.
Yeah.
So
that pretty much sums it up for me. I think the Silverstone race is really, really good. I think if you haven't watched it, I don't know why you're listening to us for this long. You need to stop and go watch the race, or at least watch the highlights or 30-minute race, whatever it is. because it was good. I can't even explain it good, and I'm sure we didn't explain it well enough because we always miss something. It is what it is.
I know, it's okay. We did a good enough job.
We did, we did, and we got some other information out. So if you made it this far, thank you very much. Like, subscribe. We appreciate you guys. Again, we are on Apple Podcasts, we are on Spotify, and we are on YouTube. We just started Trends. Did I say that right? Threads. Thank you. I'm still learning the thread.
Threads.
Thing. So, yeah.
Twitter for Instagram. If y'all don't know, it seems like everybody joined, I think, except for F1.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, I think that's it for me. Eileen, is that it?
I think that's it. We'll see you guys next time.
So we got a week and a half break.
We've got a week off, and then we're going to Hungary.
We'll see you in Hungary. All right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.